Today, I want to get into the government allegedly banning Jimin accused of payola for his song Like Crazy, and then Jung Kook actually talking about shame and getting shamed during a recent live stream. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave. Decide hate it or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, taste spilling milk merch, and let's go. Jung Kook has recently been going on live streams more often, and it's really beautiful. I'm always taken back when he decides to show his love to ARMYs and really be present. He likes to jump on when he has a moment, and especially with the release of his new song, he might feel more inclined to jump on to drum up hype. After all, every time he does go on, there's a news coverage and just a lot of people talking about the stream. He even spoke about apparently a comment saying that Jung Kook needs to jump on when ARMY misses him, and he internalized that. I think Jung Kook thought that every time ARMY misses him, he needs to release an album or something, which would explain why he does all these merch drops and photofolio stuff, because maybe he feels like that is what he has to do. But nope, a live stream is great, and even a photo is great. But while that is my message to Jung Kook, my message to ARMY is to be aware that even live streams are quite stressful. I'm sure there's at least some thought that goes into when he live streams to decide what he is going to do, whether that is cooking, karaoke, or simply just catching up. There's thought there. Now, while it's beautiful to go on a stream, and even those moments where you have to at least think about the stream and what the concept will be, the more stressful part is probably the comments. I think Jung Kook has a good head on his neck and won't really think of the comments too much, but even RM had talked about how the chat seemed quite strange lately, and that ARMYs had changed. So when you're live and reading those comments, that can be hard, because how do you react? You can't really defend yourself, because then people will say you're too defensive, and that means you're hiding something. And then even addressing it means that it bothered you, so that would make more of those comments. And then you start questioning if you did anything wrong to prompt those comments. And usually you did nothing wrong. The comments are not ever an issue if it's just hate. If someone says, oh, you're ugly or you're dumb, for most celebrities, these are not comments that are upsetting. They forget about them in like 10 minutes. The upsetting ones are the comments where the celebrity will spend years donating millions of dollars to a charity privately, only to hear comments about how they're wealthy and never give back, where the celebrity has to then sit there and wonder if they are actually giving back enough. And then the celebrity starts to question their own integrity, and then if the hate gets stronger, it could even be a gaslighting situation. Jung Kook on the recent stream got a comment asking Jung Kook not to do shameful or embarrassing stuff. You can read in between the lines there. What would be something that a Korean comment by likely a Korean person would refer to as shameful? This is probably piercings and tattoos. So Jung Kook could take that comment as, well, this is my body, my face, why do you care? Or how come my audience cares so much about that, but my other celebrity colleagues don't get so much hate for doing the same thing? Referring to maybe Justin Bieber's tattoos or whatever. So there becomes that internal fight. And then it gets worse if the artist starts to lose sales, but they feel like they've done everything they're supposed to do. So they start to question why, and then they might believe it's because of their tattoos. So Jung Kook ended up responding to said comment, and he said, am I doing anything shameful? And a lot of ARMYs were even upset that he ended up reading that comment. And I agree with that. Artists have been getting a lot of hate lately. I think there's a new generation of people who realize that there's no point in worshiping a celebrity, while the other half of people want to worship a celebrity. And I think people want to be able to worship a celebrity because it's their way of escaping. So you have a huge disconnect between cultures and interests. So there's no doubt a lot of celebrities could get hate when they dip into different audiences. Jimin is someone who gets a ton of hate. It's not really fully understood why, but it's clear it's people who are trying to bring others down. For example, one of the biggest fan wars that exists between BTS and another is with Blackpink fans. There seems to be a lot of arguments on which song is better, so people were debating whether Like Crazy was better than Flower by Jisoo, and the two songs are completely different and give different vibes. There really is no comparison. But then people want to use those songs that give different vibes to say which artist is better. This is not a fair comparison to talk about artistry. First off, Blackpink runs a tight ship. Their team does not let them do whatever, so it's not like Jisoo could sit there and write a song that is super meaningful. And even if Jisoo could, good, we have seen many times, even with BTS, that the most meaningful sad songs are the ones that don't outshine the more fun, less meaningful songs. So there's no way to compare, and I also hate how radio and mainstream now is all about being popular rather than being about good music. This encourages artists to drum out songs that will make them popular and that will grab attention rather than songs that actually prove artistry. So for example, during COVID, there were no songs coming out that were like a dance or party song because they simply just knew that no one was out partying, so the songs wouldn't connect to a mass audience. As opposed to if it was about artistry, they would just release it anyway, and if they liked it. This also encourages artists to make songs to be played at a club or at a festival, which obviously means they won't focus their time on things like lyrics, because when you're at a club or festival, who is listening to lyrics? People then start to accuse Jisoo of payola. If you're not sure of what payola is, this is when someone from a label will bribe music chart companies and radio stations to boost the song. Of course, since Jisoo was accused of this by alleged armies, Blinks fought back and then accused Jimin and Hybe of doing the same. And that music chart staffs are saying that he is participating in payola. People like to throw out these words without knowing what they mean. Payola in the industry is not as common as everyone likes to throw out. The audience hears one word of a shady thing that exists in the industry and then applies it to everything to explain why things are successful. Oh, they sold their soul, or oh, their family is rich so they paid their way. Instead of just accepting that success can happen to anyone. Payola doesn't even make sense for most artists or companies to do. So let's reenact a situation. If a label is paying a radio station to play a song, that means the song was released, did not go viral, did not generate support from mass public. So the label is thinking, okay, we need to promote, let's bribe a radio station. So they pay millions of dollars to get it to the station. So the radio can accept and lose their audience even if the audience does not find out, because when you play a song that has shown that it does not connect with the audience, it's almost guaranteed that when it's played on a car radio, people will turn on the station or just switch to Spotify. If Spotify plays a song that sucks, people would just either skip or switch apps, go to iTunes. Given how competitive this stuff is now, and also how radio is losing support in general, they will not accept the money to play a bad song because viewership is more important now. And on the label side, and why they wouldn't do that is if the song has flopped and is not connecting, that means the song is not making the label money. Businesses do not work in that way where they will pour money into something that is losing money. Instead, once a song flops, the label sometimes could even freeze the artist from releasing new music because they don't want to quote-unquote waste any more money on the artist. So payola makes no sense in modern day and also makes no sense in a business sense. If the song is already doing well, then the label doesn't need to do payola, and even if they do, who cares at that point? The song is already good, we all love it and are happy to hear it on the radio. And I want to specify, payola is not an artist or label paying for their music videos to be advertised as an ad. This is just normal music promotion. People tend to forget that music videos are an ad. The point of a music video is so you get almost their trailer or teaser on what the album sounds like and you buy the album. Labels care about album and ticket sales above all else. If you want to support an artist, that is the best way. Views or streaming does not help that much. I think more concern needs to go into making sure albums are being shipped and the fans are getting them. China is a big market for K-pop. However, the Chinese government doesn't want to deal with K-pop money because I'm sure K-pop would make a lot of money if they let K-pop stars come into their country. They would also lose a lot since the money is going to a non-Chinese label and thus go into a non-Chinese economy. But the amount of people who would fly into China and buy food in China, the amount of people who would visit China after the idol went would all help increase the economy, but China doesn't want to deal. And so many K-pop idols can't perform there. And also it's difficult for K-pop albums to be shipped there. There's a lot of regulations for bringing stuff into China. So apparently people in China have not received their album yet. And this is very shocking to me. This also needs to be fixed ASAP because the album sales only count towards the charts once the album is shipped, not when the pre-order is made. So Jimin is potentially losing millions of dollars in album sales by not being allowed to be in China. But keep in mind, this is not simply a Jimin ban or them being upset with Jimin. This is a ban normally with all K-pop idols, and there's just a lot of regulation. China is also allied with North Korea, so there is this idea that they don't want South Korea propaganda in their country. So it's very political, but I'm sure it will all get sorted out, if not already. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thank you for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.